en integrativ nivå. Så välkommen upp Josef.
Funkar det? Ja, kör på. Är det väldigt högt kanske? Alltså,
Om jag gör ingen mikrofon så får du läsa din
absolut. Stort tack. Out of courtesy for any English-speaking person, I'm doing this in English, so that is okay. I've had an opportunity to do my project abroad. And we were looking at the relationship of brain dopamine transporters in the striatum of the brain, and correlated that to how attention works in individuals and what differs high performers from low performers when it comes to attention. Well, first some background into attention. It's a very complex but very essential and fundamental cognitive function of our brain. Symbolically, you can see it as a conductor of the senses in the way that it focuses on the right sensory system at the right time. When it goes wrong, so attentional dysfunction, we see that prevalent in ADHD, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease, and schizophrenia, for example. And it's detrimental to several aspects of a person's life, like the private economy, relationships, to your near and dear, your school academic performance, and so on. So it's essential to understand where it goes wrong. To treat this, we use amphetamine and methylphenidate to a large extent to treat these individuals. There's upwards of 30% of people that do not respond to amphetamine treatment. So our purpose of our research was to understand how attention works as a fundamental function. So to understand where it goes wrong, and if we know where it goes wrong, we know how to treat it. So we looked at striatum, which is a key region in attentional regulation. So you have the dorsal and the ventral striatum, so top and down for easier symbolism. And dorsal striatum is very important in habituation, procedural memory, decision making, reinforcement learning. You have the ventral striatum, which is very important for associative, reward, and avoidance learning, and a key component in motivation of an individual. In the striatum, you have the dopamine, a very famous neurotransmitter, which is heavily involved in attention, motivation, fear, habituation, reward-associated learning, and locomotor function as well, as seen in Parkinson, for example. What it does is it binds to D1 and D2 receptors, and when it's done signaling in the synapse, you have the dopamine transporter that brings it back to the pre-synapse and modulates how often or how much dopamine signals. And this is where the important part comes in. So the dopamine transporter, when it's overexpressed, we've seen that in people with ADHD and Parkinson's disease, which leads to too little dopamine striatum. When there's an underexpression, you see that in schizophrenia, for example, you have too much dopamine. So what's important to understand is that this transporter not only does take it up, so it's not only an influx, but it can also reverse and do an efflux system. And this is where amphetamine comes in, the treatment for example, ADHD. What it does is it reverses this monoamine transporter, the direction of it, and releases dopamine into the synapse again. And amphetamine, the efficacy of it follows this curve very nicely. So, to fundamentally understand, the more amphetamine you get administered, the difference in performance can be seen in the individual. Depending on where you start, your base performance in attention, for example, have detrimental effects of how you respond to amphetamine. So if you're a high performer with optimal performance already, you will get hyper-aroused and you will lose performance if you get administered. If you're a low performer, you will see an increase until you get too much. This is very fundamental to understand, so it's important to see the right dose for the right individual. But right now, it's more of a guessing game. We don't really know how a person responds to amphetamine. So what we set out to do is look at how this dopamine transporter correlates to behavior and attention as a fundamental function. But we also looked at how a person gets treated by amphetamine, how well we respond. How does your attention change after amphetamine? So what we did, we trained 15 rats in this task with a signal off, which which you can see is the orange ball. We have two food magazines, right and left, and the rat starts this task on its own whenever it feels motivated to. On left, the rat went when it saw the light going on. If the light did not turn on, it went to the right. 1 second after initiation, we saw that decisions registered. So if you answered before that, it counted as a premature response. We also shortened the signal duration, which increased the load of your attention. So we could decrease the time as we wanted in a pseudo-randomized way, so we have a rat at the same circumstances, so to speak. And after we tested their basic performance, we administered amphetamine to see how it changed. What we did, we put them down and we used immunohistochemistry. And to summarize immunohistochemistry is that you put a primary antibody on the protein in question, so in this case the dopamine transporter. Then we use a fluorescent antibody, the secondary, to make it light up. So here you can see an example of a slice, which is from this region. So we're looking at the dorsal striatum and the ventral striatum. And here you can see the difference between two rats. So the greener it is, the brighter, the more dopamine transporter expression. And there's a bigger image of it. What we found was, and what has been documented in other reports, is that the higher the dopamine density is, the worse you do in attention. So we could predict a negative correlation. So the higher dopamine transporter expression, the worse you would do in the performance task, as you can see in this correlation plot. We also saw that the higher the dopamine transporter expression, the more premature responses you have, which might be a sign of impulsivity, for example. So it relates to the dopamine deficiency in striatum, which can be caused by, it can cause impulsivity, inattentiveness, restlessness, for example, which are hallmarks of ADHD. And as I said, it's supported by other research findings. The interesting bit though, which excited us, was that on their own, so the absolute transporter expression on their own did not really correlate. So a blue dot means a positive correlation, and an orange dot means a negative. What we saw that on their own, so the absolute expression of these regions do not on their own predict how well you do after amphetamine administration. In relationship, however, so when we did a ratio of dopamine in dorsal divided by ventral striatum, so inside the striatum, we saw there was all of a sudden a positive correlation of significance that can predict how well you will respond from amphetamine. But why was it? We have not really seen this before, so we started to theorize. So we saw that higher DAT, so the higher the dopamine transporter expression, the less dopamine you have, which should mean you have more effect of amphetamine, because the more transporters you have, the more amphetamine can work on it. But we saw that on their own, they did not predict it, right? So, since it's the ratio, that must mean that we need a lower ventral striatum. Okay, so why is that? So our hypothesis is that when you have high dopamine transporter expression in dorsal striatum, you support decision making, procedural memory, and locomotor function when you get administered amphetamine. And if you have a lower dopamine transporter expression in the ventral, you get fewer impulse and reward-driven decisions. So it's a balance within the striatum how you respond as an individual to treatment. Just to conclude, previous findings speak very well for what we found. The higher the dopamine transporter in striatum, the less you will perform, or the worse you will perform in attentional tasks. But when we looked at the ratio of the dopamine transporter expression in striatum, we can predict how well it will respond to amphetamine. And the implication of this is that we can possibly, if we can replicate this, we can possibly find new diagnostics to eventually improve prescription of people with ADHD and reduce their suffering over time, because it takes a long time for people to find the right treatments. So hopefully we can replicate this. We can hopefully improve the lives of people with ADHD and find treatments sooner. I just want to thank my supervisor Jeff and Olivia, who has been absolutely phenomenal back in the lab. And I would also like to thank Åsa Gunnarsson-Göiken for her phenomenal support back home. You're amazing, and I can't thank you enough. So thank you.
Lite frågor också. Tusen tack för det. Jag tänkte, du pratade ju om DAT och du var inne på att genom att ha koll på det här så skulle du kunna få bättre behandlingsresultat i patienten. Men ser du någon annan framtid i läkemedelsutveckling för att hitta nya läkemedel nu när man kanske då tror att det är skillnad mellan olika delar av straten? Har du någon spekulation?
Till att börja måste vi kolla på och kunna replikera resultaten. Vi vill kolla på en större kort och se till att det vi har hittat faktiskt är reellt och faktiskt. När det kommer till, som sagt, uppmärksamheten är en otroligt komplex funktion i vår hjärna. Det är inte bara striatum som är involverat, utan det är prefrontala cortex och talamus som filtrerar information. Så det är många regioner i hjärnan som är involverade. Men vi tror att i och med att uppmärksamheten är så otroligt central så jag hoppas det kan här leda till absolut bättre nya läkemedel, men också bara förbättra amfetamin som den är och börja förstå varför det är hos vissa som amfetamin funkar. Men för att svara på frågan så det behövs mer forskning, alltså svar, men vi hoppas att det är en viktig nyckel i att förstå precisionsmedicin när det kommer till ADHD.
Ja, tack. Jag tänkte ställa en annan typ av fråga. Det är lite svårt så här. Du har ju varit i Cambridge. Jag tänkte ställa hur var din upplevelse där? Hur var egentligen att komma in, att gå från Uppsala och komma till Cambridge i den forskarvärlden? Hur var din upplevelse att göra framtagning av det här arbetet?
Jag tror att rent spontant så tror jag forskarvärlden i sig är otroligt spännande oavsett plats. Men att bara kliva från studentvärlden in i forskarvärlden har öppnat ögonen för det fina som faktiskt är reell forskning och forskning av innebörd och tyngd. För det är otroligt svårt att konstruera ett bra experiment med fundamentala data. Man börjar med tanken att projektet ska börja som att man ska bygga pyramiderna, men slutar när man bygger ett sandslott på stranden. Man har stora visioner, men det är inte riktigt som man tänkt sig. Men det är väl också farmen med forskning, men intresset absolut växt i livet. Och jag uppmuntrar alla till att ta er ut. Det finns annat utanför Uppsala.
Och kan man finns mer forskning på dig?
Absolut. Ja.